Welcome to ZKast, everyone. I'm ZS Caraval from ZK Research, and I'm here at the Mitel Next event in San Antonio, Texas. I'm here with Chief Marketing Officer Eric Hanson. Eric, you're a return guest to ZKast, so welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Quick intro on yourself.
Yeah, sure. I joined the company in February and really excited to host the event here in San Antonio this week.
Yeah, last time I saw you was at Enterprise Connect. It was a good event, and so on to the next event.
Yep.
Also joining us is Chief Sales Officer Dave Petts. Dave, for the audience who may not know you, often sales doesn't get an audience in front of a lot of a wider kind of group. So talk about yourself and how long you've been at Mitel and what your mandate is.
Sure, yeah. So I'm David Petts, as you say, Chief Sales Officer. I joined Mitel about 2.5 years ago, but I was formerly with ShoreTel prior to that, actually through to the Mitel ShoreTel acquisition. So a little bit longer in the space. I've got the great honor of leading our sales team and all of our partners, so it's great to be at a next event with our partners.
So you've been around a while, seen a lot of changes.
Oh, yeah. There's been a few changes,
yeah.
But the changes are constant.
Yeah, well, in fact, change in the industry has been constant.
Yes.
One of the things we're going to talk about. Eric, first question to you. For the audience coming to this event, I know it's mostly partners, a handful of customers as well. What's the value prop of this event? What are you hoping they get out of this event?
You know, Mitel Next is really a Mitel community event. So we bring together our partner community, both in terms of our channel partners, our strategic partners, the business consultant community, and of course our Mitel user group is here as well. So it's a great opportunity to share where we're going with the strategy on the company, share where we're going with the roadmap, as well as share ideas, give people the opportunity to network and meet new people along the way. So it's really going to help us, I believe, move the communication conversation forward in the industry.
But a lot of it's about the here and now, but also a good look at the future of what's coming.
100%. Yeah. One of the sessions we'll have actually is a little bit of a celebration from the founder of Mitel, Terry Matthews, combined with our Chief Technology Officer this afternoon, which is going to be really great, looking at some of the innovation in the past and the innovation in the future. So should be
I haven't
great.
talked to Terry in a while, so I'm looking forward to that. Dave, since you're in charge of sales, what are you hoping to get out of this event? So what are you hoping to learn here from all the people that you talk to?
Yeah, well, a lot of what I hope to learn is what do our partners see as opportunity in the marketplace, and are we bringing forward the right things for them to succeed? Because we don't succeed unless the partners succeed. Yeah. A lot of the intent, as Eric said, is to make sure that we can share what in sales. You always got to sell what's on the wagon today. So there's an element of sell what's on the wagon, but the future too, because you got to have partners engaged in where we're heading and being able to tell that story to the customer. So it's all about education and collaboration, because and ultimately I want the partners to be fired up about both 2024 and beyond. So that's really what we're looking for.
So staying on the theme, you've been here for a while, as you said. Mitel's had a lot of ups and some downs as well along the way. What's the mood of partners right now?
So that's a great question. I think there's the industry is changing. We started off by saying that change is a constant, and there's been a lot of change in the last 4 or 5 years. So I think there's a desire to understand, really where the market's moving to, and do we have that? There's some sort of frustration about the rate of that change, because it's not easy keeping up with the market change. So I think there's an element of partners looking for. Stability is the wrong word, but clarity in the approach for the next. Let's be honest. If we can see beyond 2 years, then then that's a good deal. But for the next couple of years, what's the clarity? And certainly for us, we see a shift in the marketplace to more of a hybrid world, mixing cloud and on-prem applications and core call control. So a lot of good information about stability, I think, is what the partners are seeking.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because with everything moving to cloud native, whether it's on private cloud or public cloud, and then also the rise of AI, change is coming faster. And so while they may be looking for something they can grab onto now and go sell, who knows if that's going to be the case a year from now. And I've heard this from customer bases of all the vendors in the space. It's almost that there's too much innovation coming too fast and nobody can digest it. Are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, I think that actually one of the panels later today is on innovation, and part of getting innovation right is getting it at the right time. And so part of our job as the manufacturer is to work with all of the different solution providers that extend and augment the core solution we have, and pick hopefully the winners at the right time and bring those to our partners, because that's a lot of responsibility to understand who, when and why. You mentioned AI. There's a massive amount of AI out there, but it's what's the hype versus what's a deliverable here and now that can actually be business benefiting to customers. And that's really where we see a primary part of our role is to bring that ecosystem together and bring it out to the partners.
Actually, just to add to that, I think one of the other interesting things in some of the conversations that I've had this week, as well as at Enterprise Connect when we were all together, is the element of professional services to help support this. Obviously our partners have an element of professional services that they built their business on, but to the point of pace of change, they may not be equipped, and some of the partners I met with this morning are not necessarily equipped, and they're looking for that partner that can help them complement what they already have in-house to really keep up with that change and help their customers go from a current state to a rapidly changing market and a desired future state. So I think that's one of the other exciting conversations that I've been having this week.
Yeah, it's interesting that historically partners have not liked a lot of change. They like some change, but not a lot of change. But change creates opportunity, and I think this is a case where when you look at just the ebbs and flows of this industry, having gone from TDM to VoIP to private cloud, which was hosted largely, then to public cloud. Now it seems to be moving back, to private cloud. It's a lot of change, and I think partners can look at that a little critically and saying, "Wow, you guys keep flip-flopping," but indeed you're adapting to the industry needs, and you need them to change with you. Is that a good way to think about that?
I think it is. I think it is. And if you think about some of these partners in this industry, that to your point about pace of change, a lot of their customers have been with them for decades, right? So they're not accustomed to cycling through solutions or having to make these types of adaptations to their customers' business strategy at that kind of pace. And so part of them is about bringing the right consultancy to them in terms of whether it's in-house or whether it's bringing other vendors to help have those conversations to guide them. So I think it's an exciting time, but obviously change is hard sometimes too.
Yeah, although necessary. So this is Mitel Next. So Next, I think, is the theme of the event, right?
Correct.
What does that mean, do you think, to this audience? And what is when you think of the relevancy of the term Next, describe what that is right now.
Well, I think it's an opportunity. I mentioned earlier that it's an opportunity to bring the Mitel community together and talk about what's next, right? In terms of the strategy, in terms of the roadmap. And we do this annually, right? So this is our annual event for partners, for our user conference. And again, it's about keeping them up to date, and it's part of a world tour. So we're starting in America in San Antonio this week, and then we're moving on to Barcelona, if you want to join us, and doing our international next in just a couple of weeks. And then we're supporting the DOC event in Germany just after that. So by the end of the quarter, we'll have done basically all of the main events for the world tour, and then we'll do it again next year.
Oh, well, we'll see if I can make it out there. Now, it's been about, and since you mentioned Germany, I'll bring up the acquisition of UniFi, and that's been rolled in now. Right, and how's that been received? And since you're in charge of marketing, how does that change your go-to-market when you think about the assets that you're bringing in from UniFi?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. UniFi had a rich heritage of both innovation as well as a slightly different go-to-market model. So from my perspective, I think it really helps create a lot of opportunity for us as a company, but also for our partners. Right, we have I was in a partner meeting this morning, much deeper portfolio with things that we couldn't necessarily do before in terms of certain certifications in the defense industry, as an example, that now enable that partner to go compete for an RFI. And so it's those types of things that I think that type of acquisition brings to the table that really is great for Mitel and great for our partner community as well. So that's sort of one aspect. I think the services piece, which I mentioned earlier, is another big piece. I think UniFi really did a great job in terms of professional services, being able to provide managed services. And as we talked about, based on the rate of change, I think those are big. Those are going to be really big value props for us in terms of helping our partners, but also helping customers.
I think you can argue that UniFi was much more of a services company when you acquired them than they were a product company.
Yes.
Right? So
although some of the vertical solutions that they're bringing to market that we're showing at the event this week are pretty exciting, that they had a lot of success with, specifically like in healthcare, in the DOC region, and we're bringing those now to the U.S. So I know a lot of partners have been excited about that as well.
And Dave, same question for you. When you think about your role, looking at the acquisition through the sales lens, what excites you about that, and what's been the customer feedback?
One of the things that I would add to what Eric said is it expands our addressable market too, because the size of customer segments that we can now reach with the combined portfolio really extends us up much further into the enterprise than previously, prior to the acquisition. So I think there's a combination of addressable market with the solution breadth that we now have. From a integration standpoint, as we both talked about, some of those services, I think about that rate of change and the innovation around AI as an example. Being able to have the incubation of that service done in a concentrated way, so that you can bring from incubation to mainstream as the partners pick up and as it becomes more mature, is also a great asset to be able to take out to the partner network. And from a customer standpoint, we're getting you mentioned sort of the oscillation from single tenant, multi-tenant to private, public. All of those things are coming into the mix, and we're seeing customer requirements very much being about harnessing all of those capabilities in a way that is not binary. It's not a question of going from state A to state B, but there's putting it all together in a way that optimizes for them. So I think there's magic when there's complexity. We all make a bit more margin, but it does take complexity. We simplify that complexity as partners and our solutions.
Yeah, when I look at your portfolio, right, you've got the traditional Mitel portfolio, the UC business. You've got the partnership with RingCentral, which brings a SaaS offering in. You've got the managed services business from UniFi, and it seems like that regardless of how this market evolves, you're giving customers choice in their ability to move to whatever they think their next state is at a pace they want. And so how's that messaging around optionality and choice? How's that resonating with your customers?
I'd say it's resonating really loudly. Many customers, particularly in that mid-market and perhaps the low end of the enterprise, don't have a singular destination in mind. In fact, they often don't know, but rapid deployment and ease of integration, being able to tie the component pieces together, not just I would say selfishly there's a horizontal unified communications pieces, but actually integrating with their core applications in a much more deep vertical integration is key, because that's where they live their life. And if we can bring all of our capabilities, both ours and our partners' capabilities, not just the reselling partners, but our technical partners, in a way that in their speaks to them through their own applications, then that's what they're looking for. So we're definitely seeing this mix and match of deployment methodologies, but more integration with the vertical solutions that they live their days in.
Yeah, and talk about those vertical solutions. Could you just provide some examples of some of those things that you are integrating into? And I do think that is something the communications industry historically has not done a great job of. Right? We integrate into other communications apps, but I think when at the end of the day, we live in a world where we use more than that. So, any examples you can provide?
Yeah, in the healthcare space, you can look at Cerner as an application. If you look at integrating with the application that the healthcare providers live in, not only to orchestrate the giving of healthcare, but also the orchestration of insurance claims and all of the administration around the healthcare. So Cerner would be a good example. If you look at the financial space, applications like Jack Henry or similar, those are ones where as we do a lot, we spend a lot of time looking at verticals, understanding exactly that, what applications are core to them, then how do we link into those? So those would be a couple of examples that spring to mind.
Yeah, it's funny too, because when I think back at the history of Mitel, that's always something I think the company's done well. In fact, you've built some, I remember back in the day you had the turrets for financial services and things like that. Now, industry's changed a lot since then, but I think that's always been a core strength of Mitel, looking at the verticals. And so just a couple more questions. Eric, I'll come back to you. When you think of the remainder of the year, going into next year, what can we expect to see from Mitel?
Well, first of all, I think we'll be a lot noisier than maybe we have been for the last couple of years if I do my job. And I think what we'll be doing is we'll be chasing more what I would consider practical innovation that really delivers value today and also paves the way for a journey for our customers for tomorrow, as opposed to what some of my peers do, which is just chase headlines, right? I think we both know that.
There's a lot of headline chasing right now. In fact, it's hard to go to an event where you don't hear AI as the theme, and then when you talk to customers about what they're doing with AI, they're scratching their heads trying to figure out exactly what to do with it. So that's an example of where the marketing is certainly outpaced where customers are.
Right. Yeah. And so getting more specific, I think I mentioned our virtual healthcare solution, collaboration solution, and so that will have some elements of AI, as you'll hear when you're in the session today, built into its roadmap in the very close future, right? Yeah. But again, for us, emerging technologies like that are all about being an enabler enabling technology, not a category changer, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's how we view that. So we'll get very noisy about those types of things. I think we'll be pretty vocal about what we're doing with professional services. One of the messages that I'm taking away from the meetings that I've had in particular today is that that's a real need to help, as we talked about, customers make this journey, especially at an increased pace. We'll get pretty noisy about that as well.
Okay, and Dave, similar question to you, but really looking at this, as Eric mentioned, the services side being more services led. How big a shift has that been, for Mitel, who I think historically has been very technology led, but customers need to consume this technology, right? So when you think about your interactions with your partners and your customers as you become more services led, what are some of the outcomes and things that you're trying to really solve in order to make that shift?
Yeah, it's definitely a very different. A different way of thinking when you're not just, I wouldn't say necessarily leading with services, but when services is part of the overall equation. Fundamentally, the services that we're talking about are based in and around our core products and solution itself. Arguably, when we acquired UniFi as part of Atos, they were much more of a broad systems integrator that had some of their own technology. We're about services in and around our own products and solutions, and that includes I'm going to say third party, contact center apps and collaboration suites and so forth. But I see it as Eric pointed out. Firstly, particularly in new innovation areas, having that centricity or critical mass where we can make the investment early and then help deploy that knowledge base, more distributed across all of our partners. But services is very definitely a different way of thinking. We have a very large services business now, and just thinking about the way in which we collaborate with our partners and bring it as a complementary piece, not just as a service.
Yeah, well, that's the key, and I think some of the themes you touched on there was it's not competitive with the partners. It's almost services delivered collaboratively with them. Because I've always said partners are good at replicating things at scale, maybe not so great at trying to innovate new services, because frankly, I'm not sure the bang for the buck is there for them trying to do that on their own. And so I think this is something the partners need to think about, though, is how they work with you and not look at what you're doing as competitive. Because I do get that feedback sometimes that when a vendor comes in with services, they're like, hey, they're trying to take my business. But in fact, you're just trying to make their business stronger.
And ultimately, services, particularly in a complicated integration world, are critical success factors for customers. Customers don't want to put all this together themselves. And to the point we made earlier, the extent to which some of those integrations are new or they're sort of market-leading, innovation-oriented technologies, then the services really has a massive role to play.
Yeah. In fact, I think that's an interesting aspect for your job, Eric. As the world becomes more there's more choice for customers. There's more ways to deploy things. The technology does get a lot more complicated.
Yes.
But in some ways, your go-to-market messaging needs to simplify that and help them what they can do with it. But that's that's not an easy task.
No, but I think it's funny. One of my lines in the keynote that I'm giving in a little while is, if people tell you it's easy, they're probably selling something, and we do hard really well. Yeah. And so I think one of our value props is really that piece, that we're going to be here for you, whether it's helping support the partner through that journey or whether it's helping a larger, very complex customer. So I think that's a big piece of the message.
All right. Well, on that note, I think we got to go. Right? Keynotes are coming up soon. So
that's right.
On behalf of Dave Petts and Eric Hanson, I'm Zeus Caravello from ZK Reach, and thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time on the next episode of ZKast.